And we're live. Does it show it's up and running?
Looks like it to me.
Happening.
We're about to do a podcast.
I was just actually about to ask. I saw you guys by yourself, so I wasn't sure.
All good.
Well, I was just actually first thing I was going to ask was if Spark was drunk again. If you guys were going to do it. I'll bail out. Have fun.
Thank you, Master. All right.
Ready?
Lively way to start it. Yes.
How's it going, guys? This is Yara Spark, and this is my co-pilot for my podcast, St. Michael.
Hey, everybody.
How about you introduce yourself, Michael? I think everyone knows me already.
Hi, I'm Commander St. Michael, the dude who hangs out with Spark, PvP, AX, and just all around explore and love the mysteries of Elite. And yeah, similar interests.
Heard recently you've been tackling the AX leaderboards. How about you tell me a little? How about you tell me about that?
Trying to, yes. LL is that's just the group I'm in, and probably many of you know who that is, Lavini's Legion. We are attempting, anyway, to get at least a top 3 trophy, and so far it's going pretty well. Obviously, a lot of CZs, a lot of Goids, and a lot of time, especially if you don't have the numbers of pilots as that some of the other groups do, like Axis. So, but we're solidly in 3rd place and still going. We're about halfway through the season now, maybe a little bit less than halfway through, but getting there. And yeah, so I'm hoping in the next, I believe, 28 days and some hours that LL can finally claim a nice AX medal.
Hopefully a silver trophy at that. Looks like you guys are getting pretty close.
Yeah, we're pushing Hive. I have a feeling once Hive's, as we all probably know, a dedicated AX group. I think they're considered to be the first one ever created and the second biggest active one, next behind Axie, of course. So, hey, that'd be a great honor if we can beat those guys, because mad respect to Hive. I have nothing but love for those dudes. We've fought many times with them. But yeah, we're going to give them a run for their money, hopefully. So maybe. We'll see what happens.
Were those the guys that were there when we killed the Hydra?
Indeed. Yes. Hive was very instrumental in helping us to kill our first Hydras. Mostly LL pilots, but there I believe it was 2 or maybe even 3 Hive guys. So, yeah, they were very, very helpful dudes, very cool. Like most of the AX community. I think if anybody's listening who does AX, I think you'll realize pretty quickly that the AX community is pretty open and friendly and a bunch of good guys in general.
Yeah, it's actually surprised me how big the AX community has actually gotten. I didn't think it was going to be big. For the longest time, I thought it was actually going to be something that would get out of hand and FDev would have to fix. But... Hey, what?
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, I actually agree. I think especially towards the end of last year before the big update on December 11th, a lot of the community was getting a little burned out, and they were kind of putting these really ridiculous defense targets, and it just kind of felt like we were doing this uphill losing battle. But luckily, after a few months of rocky CZs and figuring out some stuff, it seems like the X community, if nothing else, been really revived. So... hopefully we'll keep it up, and yeah, the bubble won't burn.
Yeah. I know for the longest time I actually had a whole bunch of people asking me to come out and do AX. Originally I didn't have the expertise for it, but now I do. But usually I only deal with the combat zones now, and usually not the infested systems.
Definitely, and I know I'm one of those people who's bugged RF Spark over here a bunch of times to come help. And yeah, the infested systems, as I think any AX pilot knows, are quite irritating. Your signals are super far apart. They're usually very light, and you're basically getting one fight sometimes every 10, 15 minutes, so it can be really, really grueling. But CZs, I think now that the bugs are totally fixed, but are getting better, I think it's really become fun. And Spark, I know you've flown with me a few times in him, and it's always good to have Spark, because he's a hell of an AX pilot, just as he is in PvP. So, yeah. It's definitely getting there, and good to have you with us when you are available. because I know
Yes.
you're busy doing a lot of other stuff most of the time, exploring PvP, exploration. I've been a little focused lately. So.
Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So much friggin' engineering.
It's Elite Dangerous, the never-ending grind, as we say, right?
Yes, the map grind is a bit tedious. It does make me wish that they had something more AI utility other than Thargoids that was like that kind of challenge.
I would agree. They kind of gave that to us, I felt, a little bit with the Spec Ops and the new human CZs and the captains and the goals and the way to close them. But of course, you only ever run into those guys in CZs, and I think some of them, like the captains, I'm pretty... Well, no, is it? No, you might be able to get into in all of them, but still, the point is that you can only get into them in human CZs. So I kind of wish you could have run into them. You know what I mean? Maybe at a nav beacon, or who knows, even interdicted. It'd be kind of cool if there were pirates who were on the level of, say, Spec Ops or something.
Yeah. I feel like I only see like when I'm at the bulk carriers or the cargo ships that I get like those cool ZZs feeling. But other than that, I feel like that's about it. But the only time you ever see that is just if you go there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, I think that's one of a lot of the people's issues is with just combat in general is the good combat anyway. Besides, of course, PvP is really hard to come by. And especially if you don't have, say, a BGS faction that you're caring about, and let's say you're just an independent pilot flying around, it's not really a lot of reason to go do CZs. So unless you just want the tough fight and you just happen to, like, I'll join it, there's not a lot of motivation to do it. Obviously, you can make a lot more money from Void Opals, and you can even get more combat rank from AX. So I actually have to completely agree with you, Spark. I wish they would definitely add it in a few more areas of Elite Dangerous. Nav beacons, like I said, Hazreses, pirates, etc.
Yeah, it also would be nice if they did capitalize on the Thargoids a little bit more. I feel like there's a lot of potential, but I feel like it's kind of dry. Also, the Guardians.
Well, yeah. I feel those are slightly separate questions, but with the Thargoids, for a while it was getting pretty intense with the number of stations that are burning. But with the groups really becoming established, I've noticed most incursion systems nowadays are closed within 2 or 3 days. So let's say you get the CZ on Thursday. Usually by Saturday you're out of them. So then you have either a week of gibbing, which is basically what you have to do to help keep yourself up on the leaderboards, or you've got a week of doing nothing until the next CZs. So I kind of have to agree with you. I used to complain about this last year, but maybe it's time to ramp it up a little bit. And maybe, I think the other good thing would be, it'd be really nice if they finally attacked a system that the community as a whole cared about. Now, I know Sol and Shinrada get mentioned a lot for that, but I think there's even other systems, like engineering systems and some other ones that might get people interested. Because right now, a lot of times they're just attacking places that people don't really care about. So, people don't really come out and fight.
Yeah. I'm so curious of what their what their method of choosing what systems get hit. I feel like, from what I was always getting this feeling, is that Sol is basically the final battlegrounds. But not sure.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, Sol being the one place, I think even I know a lot of Imperials and Alliance and other people who aren't even Federation who all go, yeah, Sol's of course the birthplace of humanity, and of course we all, as players, happen to live in Sol. Whether we like it or not. So yeah, I think that's definitely will be the final battleground, as it were. But I hope before we get to that final battleground that we can maybe get some motherships or something else. I know Elite has said there's going to be a few minor updates. Who knows? That might be a little too big for said minor updates. But this is the year of the Thargoid War, so maybe their final update of the year will be a Thargoid mothership or something along those lines, which I think would be really, really cool.
It puzzles me that they're waiting to have a big update in 2020 for some reason. I don't understand if that's just how the development works there over at Frontier Development. But I'm also still curious to know what the roadmap is for these tiny ones.
Yeah, I think we've all definitely would love it if there was a little more transparency from Frontier that would just, hey, just give us a little more information. I'm not saying you got to tell us everything. I understand you might want to keep a few surprises, but, even just a general guide would be fantastic. Of course, I think we all know the big rumor for why it's taking so long and that is, of course, Space Legs. So will we finally get Space Legs? I know it's been predicted before, so who knows? We could all be disappointed again, but considering how much time an effort they're putting into it, considering it's going to be a paid update. I feel like they better provide something pretty special, because yeah, the community needs it. Frontier, if you're listening, we need it.
Yeah. I would definitely like to hopefully see some previews soon. Not just leaks, just confirm, and also to maybe hype up the train a little bit.
I'm hoping so as well. I'm not sure if they have any more planned expos or anything. I have to say I'm a little behind on those. But I'm hoping if they do, certainly I know they'll have one at the beginning of next year before the big update drops. So I'm hoping at least by then, which is still a pretty good ways off, that we will know something or have some idea of, hey, what's coming. Who knows, maybe even a teaser trailer or something, kind of like they did with the Thargoids. We'll see, maybe.
Yeah, even though those were a little bit boring, but hey, they worked.
Exactly. Now back to your previous question that you had mentioned, the Guardians. Now that's something that I have personally been very fascinated by, because as much as we find the Guardians interesting, I think from a lore point of view, they really haven't done much with them. They kind of are like, hey, here's a few modules, and hey, here's a few, AX weapons, so you can actually kill these Thargoids a little easier. But as far as doing anything else with them, they haven't done much. Now, I will say two things that are kind of interesting to me. One is, if you've been following Galnet, which I'm sure a lot of people who are listening have, then you'll probably know that there's the new mystery with the ship thief, who has now been tied to President Halsey's visions. So I've wondered, maybe is this something to do with surviving Guardians, or even more interesting, maybe constructs, which, in case for those of you who don't know what constructs are the Guardian AI that wiped out the Guardians but disappeared afterwards. So no one knows where they're at. But yeah, I'm really hoping that with that storyline, with our Interstellar Initiative that's very clearly Guardian focused, that yeah, they're going to finally expand on that and do something with it a little bit more. Maybe have 3 races finally, instead of just us humans and Thargoids out there.
True. It also puzzles me that the Guardian sites have like access doors, like the big Thargoids ones do. It makes me curious if we'll ever be able to access those underground ruins of the Thargoids, or go inside of whatever is in there.
Well, I think Frontier has shown us, kind of like with just your own ship designs, that they like to go ahead and lay groundwork for some of their future updates. Like I said, a great example is your ship. Your ship is actually already pre-designed to be walked around. And for those of you who use VR, you already know that. You can get up in your VR headset, you can walk around, you can see coffee pots and this and that. And, you can kind of go, okay, I could walk around my ship. Of course, that's only for people who use VR, which is a little bit disappointing. But the point is, they've already laid the groundwork for something like Space Legs. So I think the idea that they could have already laid the groundwork for something at the Guardian sites, or hey, you can go in and maybe discover some new knowledge about the Guardian sites, would be really, really cool.
Yeah. It also just because...
Wait, what?
Sorry about that. That was just a little technical error. I think we've got it solved, though.
Ah, okay, that's good.
Oh, anyway, so yeah, we kind of lost our train of thought with that technical error, but yeah, the going inside, I think that it's very likely, and not a stretch at all, for the idea that they've laid more stuff out for the Guardians for the future, meaning, hey, they might have already put those doors in. Who knows? Maybe even the interiors are finished, and they're just like, all right, well, we need to wait for some other reason, or just as a surprise for us, as FDev occasionally likes to do. So we'll see. I'm hoping.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool to see one last battle against the Guardians and the Thargoids, but I really don't know. The Guardians seem to definitely just be kind of dead, and we're just picking up the leftovers.
I think a more likely scenario is that one of two things: either A, the Guardians, the ones who might have survived, are going to kind of help humanity in their battles, maybe more directly, or who knows, maybe the constructs will step in. I know we all kind of think of the constructs as, well, hey, they genocided their own people, but it was also very clear from the lore to me that the constructs weren't inherently violent necessarily. They just felt that their creators were inherently violent, which is why they sort of did what they did. But who knows? I mean, they're an evolving AI, and it's been, what is it, a couple million years since the Guardians died off, or supposedly died off. And so who knows, maybe they've evolved as well, and maybe they're the ones giving us help. Because I definitely think that, or at least I really hope, I shouldn't say definitely think, really hope that these Halsey Galnet articles, vision stuff that they've always been kind of alluding to as a pseudo mystery in Elite will actually lead to something cool like that.
True.
So speaking of the Guardians, I have a question for you, Spark. What do you think of these interstellar initiatives, multi-cannons, AX missiles?
I like the idea, but I would still, in my opinion, I would personally want to at least see another CG be going at the same time to give other players options, because this is more an exploration / cargo mission, a CG, even though there was combat, but I really don't know who in the hell would come out here to do combat.
You got a point. Well, to be fair, the combat CG is the one going on this week, and then the last week was the one that was the hauling CG. But yeah, actually, I completely agree. I've never been a big fan of when FDev does CGs that are way outside the bubble, mainly because I just feel like you're leaving out a very large part of the community. I kind of understood it when they did it for Distant Worlds, because just so many people were going on that, and so that made sense. I have no problem with that.
That was kind of just a exploration-focused thing. That's why.
Yeah, but the point is that we're such a huge portion of the community that it's like, I think it was, don't let me lie, I wouldn't be surprised if 50% of the active players had gone on Distant Worlds, or maybe even more. So I can totally get that one, but I have to say, when you're finally bringing CGs back, and a lot of people have been really waiting for them to do one that's kind of out, sort of very narrow focused in the sense of, like you said, explorers and also AX pilots, but still kind of a narrow range of a player type, leaves out a lot of other players. So I kind of hope that they either decide to bring them back to the bubble, or, like you said, maybe even multiple CGs. Crazy thought.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be too hard, and I feel like the player base is there to support it, maybe. I mean, you could always just try it 1 week and see what the hell happens.
Oh, I definitely agree on the player base supporting it. I mean, I've heard so many people who paused from the game or took a break from the game, and they're like, "Oh, well, let me know when CGs are back," that kind of thing. And I know for you PvPers out there, you guys have definitely missed PGs. Or CGs, CGs. Probably don't miss PGs, actually. But CGs, but even just beyond that, I think there's a lot of players who just like to have a goal for the community that they focus on, whether they be in private or solo or wherever they might be, and they want to be able to do what they do too. So yeah, I'm really hoping. I do like, though, just kind of on the same topic, that the CGs are linked a little more now, because obviously it used to be, it was just a CG for a week, and it was kind of a lot of times just a random sort of, all these two companies are fighting, choose a side and get a reward. Yeah. Whereas now they seem to be pseudo trying to make a bit of a story and reason behind them, where they last a little bit longer. And I think that could be cool. I'm not, like I said, super happy with their first one and what they chose, but you know what? They're going in the right direction, so maybe we shouldn't complain too much.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. And I gotta say, I'm very happy to finally see something I can get out of it, a reward. Not just a little bit of lore and a little bit of huzzah.
Or a decal.
Yeah, or a freaking decal. Yeah. As we all know, me and Michael was very surprised to see the multi-cannons win. I remember seeing that on Facebook, or hearing about Axie just wanting the missiles and stuff, and I made a post on Facebook saying that that's going to happen, and apparently I was a little wrong.
I think you weren't the only one who was wrong. I have to say, I heard the same thing, that Axie wanted it, and I kind of assumed that if Axie wanted it, most of the other sort of AX groups would follow suit, and I think a lot of them actually did. But yeah, you're right. The multis came out on top. My personal theory on this, though, is I do know Axie towards the end kind of stopped caring a little bit, in the sense of they were like, well, whatever wins, wins. And I think a lot of it was just the AX groups didn't want to throw the manpower out there that require it. And then, of course, most people, I think, if they just see a missile rack or a multi-cannon, just go, hey, I want a multi-cannon, and boom, that's why it won. So maybe we were a little naive in our decision, or thought Axie cared more than they did. But yeah, I'm very surprised. Although I have to say, personally happy, because I actually, despite Axie wanting missiles, even though I'm an AX pilot, I wanted the multis. So I am glad that those are winning, or have already won. Actually, I think the CG's over. Or CG just ended. Excuse me.
Yes. Probably waiting for tomorrow's tick, to be honest.
Yes, the tick, which as an AX pilot I'm excited for too, because hey, for all you other AX pilots, we get our CZs back. Yeah, at least for a couple of days.
Yeah, something we should do finally, maybe.
Exactly.
You can't go wrong with the universal code of DACA.
Yes, yes, Daka Daka. And I know you were saying some pretty exciting news about them was that we're not sure what sizes we're going to get. We do know we're pretty positive they're going to only be fixed, but I believe there were some rumors, or at least maybe even confirmed rumors, that the distro draw was going to be significantly less.
Yes, it does surprise me. I don't know why that would be. As I said, we'd have to wait for final specs. But at least from what Frontier has shown, it looks like it has a little bit less power draw from the distro, or distro draw, but has the same damage as a fixed medium multi-cannon, so something is up with that. I don't know if that was a typo, or if it's actually true.
Spark, you might actually know a little bit more than I do on this. Do we know that it's going to be a medium, or do we just know that it's going to have a medium's damage?
From what I don't know what size it is. That's FDev didn't give a size, but from the damage and the DPS and the damage that they calculated, or at least put up on the screen for their trailer for them, or because they put them up on Facebook, at least the missiles and the multi-cannons, and they put up the damage for them, and they have the exact same damage as a medium fixed multi-cannon.
All right, see, now what's really going to make me mad here is if they go, okay, well, we gave you less distro, but we're going to make them large, and then make them, you know, so that, but their weakness will be that they have weaker damage for a large multi.
I doubt they would do that. I would say they're probably going to be like, what's the Hudson's multi-cannons? Enforcers?
Oh, no, those, you're talking about Pranav on Tall, yes.
Yes, the Enforcers. I feel like it...
Pacifiers would be, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. I really do. I think that would be fantastic. Although, to me, I have to say, if that does turn out to be true, are we sure these are AX weapons or are they PvP weapons? Because I know a lot of PvPers, probably myself included, who would be definitely taking advantage of that.
Yeah. As I said, we're going to have to wait for further specs. I haven't checked Colores to see if he's updated it, to see if the new things are in there yet. Probably going to have to wait a couple days to see. I'm also very happy that these new weapons are going to be engineerable.
Yes, yes. I think a lot of players are happy because it'll be interesting. Obviously, the big advantage of these is going to, at least for AX pilots, is going to be that, hey, you can use these along with your normal Guardian weapons and your Guardian shards and things like that. But if you can engineer them where they're, you know, really, really powerful, it makes them a little more worth it. Obviously, the big drawback that a lot of us AX pilots have complained about, in fact, I think it's almost universally complained about by AX pilots, is synthing and the crazy synth requirements it's going to have for AX ammunition.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that I couldn't just buy the ammunition like I can already. I don't know why that's a requirement. Hopefully that'll be a life improvement update that we can get.
Definitely.
I don't know if there's any forum post about it. I would figure that FDev might do something about it eventually. But...
Well, yeah, I think especially if people complain enough, which I think a lot will.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not too worried about it. I still think 4 is enough, even though I think it would add flavor, but
Yeah, I think it would. I think the interesting thing about it all, though, is that they kind of, this going back a little bit, they came out with things like the Type 10, of course, like, oh, this is designed to fight AX and has all of these hard points, and then, of course, oh, by the way, we gave you a ton of hard points, but you can only use 4. So, yeah, well, we all know you can use the extra remote flak, but still, they basically were like, yeah, you can only use 4. So, it would definitely be a nice sort of, hey, guys, now you can finally use maybe some of these bigger ships a little more effectively. Because, I mean, I think a lot of the big advantage of a big ship is, hey, more hard points, more this. And that was really, really unfortunately nerfed with that limit of 4. And I think that's why you've seen things like the Crate Mark II become so meta in AX.
Yeah. It just puzzles me why they did that. But do you think when FDev eventually release maybe a Guardian frag cannon, do you think you'll be able to solo kill Cyclopses by yourself?
Now, when you say solo kill them, we can already solo kill them. I'm assuming you mean like gib them?
Yeah.
Kind of kill them real fast. Well, they already kind of have the frags in the sense of the shards.
Yeah.
Now, if they ever remove that limit, meaning where you can have 4, I think there's no doubt that you could give one by yourself. The other question would be, you might be able to give them with the new AX multis. Let's say you engineer them G5, and then of course that engineering, I would assume, stacks even with your AX synth ammo. You might even be able to do it then. Of course, the only drawback is going to be, hey, I better have a bunch of mats because I'm going to have to synth all this ammo, especially if you're throwing on, say, 2, 3, even 4 multis or something like that. So I do think that's a possibility. I also think that's why, kind of to your previous question, I think it's a lot of the reason they probably limited the weapons to 4, because they quickly probably realized, just based on regeneration rates of the AX or the Thargoid ships and stuff like that, they were like, hey, if some guy takes a Type 10 and puts all shards on it, he's going to be able to kill it instantly, and that's no fun, So I think they wanted to make sure that we had to do some work into it, even though Gibbing has still taken over as one of the major leaderboard sort of ways to rank up. It's how a lot of us big AX groups do it, is we just gib.
Yeah. Definitely interesting that that's a thing, to be able to just one-shot them like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people on here probably have seen. You can even go watch videos of Axie actually gibbing Hydras, the biggest there is. Now, true, it takes quite a few pilots, and instancing like that is not always easy. But the point is that it is doable. So that kind of tells you right there. And I think with even a low-end Cyclops, you can gib with just 2 people. 2 people in a properly outfitted ship, and boom, you don't even have to have a fight. You can just shoot. 5 seconds later, go to the next one.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting how crazy those Thargoid battles can be, actually, how difficult they can be if you're not coordinated or have enough people or whatnot.
Oh yeah, especially I think the CZs, if you're trying to do that with just 1 or 2 people, even sometimes good people, if you just have some bad luck, a lot of NPCs get killed or anything, yeah, you have a real fight. And I've said this to you, not in the podcast, obviously, because this is your first episode, but I've said to you before that excuse me, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. That it's really almost necessary to have a wing of 4 for some of those situations, just because of the toughness and everything else. So they definitely did bring some intensity. I remember what I was going to say, and it's, to me, the only form of combat in the game that anywhere rivals something like PvP as far as difficulty and skill level and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's as hard as PvP, because I think the best PvPers out there are definitely hard Thargoid, but I think compared to your average PvP or even your low-end PvPer, yeah, they're probably a bigger challenge, honestly.
Yeah, what's nice about a Thargoid, at least it's not toxic.
Well, I think that is true in every game communities. You're going to have some people who are just really toxic or rude. And then, of course, there's always just the flat out, some people who even are cool people might just not like each other. And that's an unfortunate part of the gaming world. So,
on the subject of PvP, have you heard about the new PvP League?
I have heard a little bit, and I am intrigued, especially with the rules. As you know, I am not a big FDL guy, which I know some PvPers in here are probably going to go, but yes, I am not. I am not a big FDL guy. I'm not huge into the meta, and it seems like the league is interested in, maybe trying something besides the meta too. So, or at least a weakened version of meta. So I am quite actually interested in this season. I'll be curious if they even get it going, though, because it seems like they're getting a little bit of pushback on some of their decisions.
Yes, not to name very many groups, because starting drama is not what I am here for. But I am hoping to see a refresh of the PvP League. I am kind of happy to see that they actually acknowledge it and that there's a problem and that something needs to be done. It is definitely showing that maybe the PvP community is heading towards maybe a better direction than what it seems to be right now. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I would just say I think the main reason for me, like, for instance, it's not that I like this, it actually kind of goes along with the same reason I don't fly in FDL. It's not that I have a issue with the FDL. I definitely acknowledge the FDL as probably the best PvP ship overall in the game. My problem with it is there's no variety. We kind of end up in these wing fights, and you got 4 FDLs on one side, and you have 4 FDLs on the other side. You know, that could be fun once in a while, but it'd be really, really nice if we could just start seeing some other ships come in. And usually I do see some other ships, but even then it kind of tends to be the same ones, meaning corvettes and cutters, usually a couple of the big boys, a bunch of FDLs, might get a few chieftains here and there, but in general, it's kind of the same 4 or 5 ships. So I think it would be really, really cool if we could start seeing some fights that weren't necessarily the same 4 or 5 ships. Especially the FDLs. Well, obviously the big boys aren't going to be part of the league anyway. It's only going to be medium, so you kind of nix the cutters and the corvettes, which is nice. But yeah, if we could, you know, maybe see just, I don't know, a Crusader or a Challenger, some Mambas, you know, just some different stuff. I think that would be really, really cool.
Very true. I feel like they should probably split it up into size categories. But I know they're trying to make this a lot faster and simpler, so that might not be the best thing to do. But I would like to see a little bit more flavor. Last year's was uber boring, and I actually tried to participate in it, but it was just taking so long, I actually had to go. I think I had to leave out of town. Like, I had like 2 hours before I had to leave town, but before our 2 hours could even begin, it was already time for me to leave. So, I don't know. Maybe this year LL might be able to join, don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? What were you talking about? LL joining the PvP leagues?
Yeah, I know LL was always a big part of it.
Yeah, as you know, unfortunately, the LL's PvP side has been a little bit lackluster lately. Mainly because a lot of our PvPers I've kind of been dragging into this this effort to get a medal, you know, for the Legion. So a lot of the best PvP pilots happen to a lot of times be the best AX pilots. So I've been kind of dragging them into that.
Very true.
But we're hoping this is not like some permanent goal of LL's. We're not trying to take over leaderboards and
other shenanigans.
Yeah. We're just trying to get, you know, the medal the 1 month, and then we're basically probably going to get back to much more normal, just defending Imperial systems, which kind of, you know, obviously we are an Imperial group, so we kind of specialize in defending Imperial space. So, for instance, myself, like, I actually really love PvP, but I've been so consumed with this I haven't been able to do it. So when this season is over, I know, at least for me personally, I will be getting very much back into PvP. I'm not sure when the league is going to start, but hopefully I can sort of rally the troops, as it were, along with some help. And yeah, maybe, who knows, get LL in the PvP league.
I heard LL did pretty decent for the, what was this little event you guys had not too long ago?
Oh yeah, there was the LL anniversary, which was just sort of us celebrating 4 years of existing, and I think for any group in any game to last 4 years and still maintain numbers and still maintain our solid presence and stuff is pretty really cool. So we decided to celebrate it, and it was you know, just a big race and derbies, mostly SRV kind of stuff, just messing around, having fun. And I know you were there, Spark, as well. And actually, not only was Spark there, he was kicking some butt. Yeah, it was, I think, a fantastic time. There was, you know, anywhere from 15 to 20 of us. And those were, you know, and obviously there was a lot of people who just couldn't be on because of time differences. You know, somebody's in Europe, somebody's in America, that kind of thing. But yeah, to get 20 of us in an instance, racing and doing derbies was great. And I'll even give a shout out here to Spark, who actually won the race. So congratulations. Although he got lucky, everyone. Don't let him fool you.
Yes, the race. I almost got stuck in that crap. Luckily, I managed to get out.
Yeah, just for reference, everyone, as you can imagine, with that many SRV races, and we ran a pseudo track sort of thing, we all kind of got jammed up into this one little area, and then luckily Spark over there was able to escape real fast and didn't do it. But either way, he was still a heck of an SRV driver, and I think that probably is a testament to your sort of exploration background, which I know you love to do as well.
Yes, I have definitely been exploring for many, many years.
Actually, I think this is a good segue into that. So, what is your opinion, especially since the December 11th update, of the new exploration? I mean, there's all these new things to find. We got all these new little aliens. Or
I feel like it's a great thing in the right direction. It's definitely nice. I do approve of everything that FDev has done. I just hope that there's going to be more.
yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely think they're getting there. Like, what I really like is and I have to give a shout out to Distant Worlds for this. So thank you guys for this. Is they finally have like a station at Sag, which is just amazing, because I always thought it was really cool to go to Sag, but of course when you go to Sag, you know, Colonia is pretty much the closest thing to you, and even then, I think. What is the distance? I think it's at least a few thousand light years, maybe over 5,000 light years. So it's really cool now that, hey, you can go to Sag and you can get a little respite there as well. And we're finally really getting out of the bubble with our stations and humanity. And true, it's kind of still slightly limited, but who knows? Maybe even Beagle Points. Beagle Points obviously become quite the known system. So who knows? Maybe we'll even go crazy and make a Beagle Point highway, where we'll have. I think that would be super cool.
Yes, it's definitely interesting how we've kind of started a second bubble out there in Colonia. It makes me curious if we'll be starting one in Sagittarius. As you currently know, shield cell banks are popular out there in Colonia. They are the highest grade possible.
Yeah, I think they've been doing that on purpose. I think FDev is, you know, pushing for. They made this second bubble, but I think still it's pretty sparsely populated. I know there's a few small groups or whatever that kind of own Colonia, as it were, but I think they're definitely trying to get Colonia a little more accessible to your average player, which is why they did things like the Colonia Highway and stuff like that, and also even made Sag more accessible. But yeah, I'm really hoping they kind of make Colonia a little more worth it. Because I know a lot of people for the longest time, they were like, oh, well, I'm not going to move out to Sag or Colonia, excuse me, because, you know, all G1 engineers and that's all you got, you know, but they're starting to equal those out. They're starting to bring those up a little bit. And yeah, it would be really cool to have a second bubble. Who knows, maybe in the future of a bubble war where it's like the Colonia bubble versus the human or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or a power player out there. Crazy thought. Well, I think you'd have to have two to sort of have some balance, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, give it a little more real taste of the bubble feel.
Yeah, I feel like if there's ever base building, I feel like I can see a big player base homemade bubble going, but I don't know. It depends on how big FDev wants to undertake space legs and crafting and all that shenanigans.
Yeah, I just hope they keep it reasonable. I think one of the biggest complaints I hear about Elite from people I especially introduced to the game and others, and just people I play with in general, is we're all kind of get to the point where we're just like, come on, Elite, a little less grinding, a little less grinding. So I'm hoping they can maybe take that in consideration with that. But yes, definitely would love those ideas. Just, if you're listening, Frontier, ease up on the grinding. It's enough.
It'd be cool to be able to manufacture or make said materials too one day.
Yeah, it'd be cool that give us some. I mean, I appreciate the material traders, but I have to say, I've always thought it'd be really cool if we could ever get at least with some materials, maybe not all of them, because I understand they don't want to just force everyone to money mine. But like, it'd be really great if we could maybe buy some certain materials, use some of our money, which I think would be pretty realistic in the sense that if this was, you know, this is meant to be a realistic galaxy, right? And it's like, to say that no one would sell something like iron is, to me, a little nuts. I think you could probably buy iron without having to go to a moon and drive an SRV or go to an asteroid belt and mine it yourself. So, yeah. You know what? Like, maybe a good compromise would be like, hey, you can purchase, say, the first 3 tiers of materials, and you can use those to trade up if you want, but the rare ones, those are the ones you got to go mine yourself or something like that.
Yeah,
you know,
I would be happy if ships drop more than just manufacturing items. I feel like a diversity of, like, they could drop data cans or data things or raw materials or manufacturing items, of course, already. I feel like that would be very handy as well. Probably something like Warframe, where you could possibly make your engineered weapons or your materials and whatnot. Take a book out or take a page out of Warframe, basically.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that would be really cool. I mean, I think the kind of idea we're both getting at here is that they need to stop trying to force people to do everything in the game and sort of let people do the thing they like, and you know, you can still get to it. So like maybe you're not into SRV driving or landing on planets. Well, hey, here's a way for you to get those mats without doing that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think what they're not understanding is that yes, it's cool to test some of those things out, like give a little incentive to drive SRVs or to do exploring and this other stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, people want to play their style, whether it be combat or whether it be mining, and it shouldn't. You shouldn't have to force a miner to go do something he doesn't want to do, and you shouldn't have to force a combat guy to go do something he doesn't want to do. I mean, the whole reason we play games is for fun, right? So if we're going to play it for fun, then, you know, let us get the materials in a fun way. I don't mind a grind. I mean, I think we all know MMOs are going to be a grind to a point. But, you know, you don't have to make them torturous.
Yeah. It definitely is going to make me curious, because I heard rumors of an FPS for this game. How that's going to be effective? Like, is there going to be rewards? Who's going to be participating in that? Is it just going to be another CQC? Who knows?
Well, I mean, I believe the most probably the almost Star Citizen-like rumor, but the biggest rumor or the most out there rumor I heard was that you would even be able to say dock with a ship and board it and do all those. I have to say personally, I have a hard time seeing that, just because I think that maybe the game mechanics are built in, but I don't see a lot of that. Maybe I'm wrong. But it'll be interesting. I'm really curious if they do the FPS, and which I'm not against, by the way. I'm not saying I'm like, oh, don't do that. I'm fine with it. It's more that it'll be interesting to watch or see how they try to intricate that in the game. And I hope it's a little more than what you just said, where it's not just like, hey, go join an arena combat sort of thing and you can shoot in there, but other than that, that's all you get, you know? I hope it's a little more like, hey, I can carry a pistol on my hip in the ship. But kind of treat it like you would shooting a station, you know? Like if I pull my pistol out and I say shoot at another player, then bam, security's going to do what? They're going to kill me.
Yeah. I would definitely love to see these stations become more lively.
Yeah, just bring some more life to the game, you know. I don't expect this game to be Star Citizen or anything like that. I don't think it was ever meant to be. But if you could just add a little bit more, then I think you would improve this game tenfold.
Very much so. Definitely.
Yeah, and if you're listening, and if you're listening, FDev, Space Legs cannot just be walking around your ship, because I think that's going to disappoint a lot of people. If at the very least, I think Space Legs need to allow you to go onto a station and meet other players, because I think one of the biggest advantages of something like that is actually players finally meeting and talking to each other. Because you know yourself, Spark, especially as a PvP pilot, and a lot of times what are we doing? We're running around in big combat rig ships, right, where we're fully loaded for fights. Well, the problem with that is that if I meet a new player, they immediately assume I'm a ganker. Yeah. I don't blame them. I probably would too. And so what happens is they don't say hi, they don't do this. Most of the time, they just high awake and immediately run away. Whereas it would be really cool if you could actually meet other players in an environment where they're not worried about getting ganked. And I guess we kind of have that with station communication, but I think there's a little more something to being able to see each other. Because, you know, once you're parked inside that station, you're docked inside that hangar, unless you decide to type in that system chat or that local chat or whatever, no one knows you're there, really, other than the guys scanning outside. And usually those are the ones you don't want to talk to anyway.
Yeah. What's nice is that the FDev has definitely closed off the newbie system, so it's not as toxic or as much of a problem for griefing. I do wish that griefers would not get slapped on the hand and that'd be it. I wish they'd actually be a higher punishment, because I feel like your starting player base is what's going to keep your player base going.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's a very much more touchy subject, because you got a lot of your griefers, or your gankers, are also your most hardcore guys. You know, they're the dudes who put in hundreds of hours into your game. They're the guys who spend probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars on ship kits and paint jobs and every other little thing. But then again, you're totally right. You need to appease the new player base, and I think that's what they tried to do with this new update, with these starter systems, where they basically said, hey, you know, you can stay here as long as you want, but once you leave, be warned, you know, you're open to the wider galaxy. So I think that was probably an attempt at the balance to that. But I have to say, if they think notoriety is preventing griefing or anything like that, honestly, you're probably annoying the good players more than you are those dudes, because those guys will just jump to another system where they're not wanted. get their ships fixed, whereas the guys who actually care about their bounties, they're the ones who are sitting there, oh god, I gotta wait 2 hours. And most of the time it's just because they accidentally shot, you know, like I know this happens to me in AX, where we use a lot of heal beams and stuff like that to heal each other when we're fighting these big Thargoids, and every once in a while you'll target like an NPC and boom, you shoot him one time and all of a sudden you've attacked him, and then of course he gets killed by a Thargoid, and then boom, oh, you're a murderer, bounty.
Yeah, especially if you're using the shards and you just shotgun blast them.
Exactly, and so all of a sudden I have notoriety of 1 or sometimes even 2, and I've got 4 hours of waiting to get this bounty off me when I wasn't even trying to hurt anyone, you know. So I definitely think there needs to be some kind of fix to that, because I don't think that system is working the way they had hoped it would. But I'm not sure what that fix would be, but I'll have to put some thought on that. Maybe next episode I'll have a good idea.
Yeah. This last update definitely was a good one. Still lots of bugs. Sadly, that's kind of with any game. I think that's just something we all have to get used to. That's just part of how games work nowadays, that there's just going to be bugs and they're just going to have to be fixed. That's kind of why I stopped caring, to be honest.
No, and that makes sense. I think sometimes Elite does get a little unfairly treated, because the problem is when you make any of these games, what are games getting? They're getting bigger, they're getting more gigabytes, complicated, you know, and so with that same complication comes more bugs, and we all got to keep in mind that although FDev, you know, does have a decent investment in Elite, I think they've publicly stated that there's only about 100 developers working, and that's including developers who are working on the new big update, which means they've got at best probably half their guys working on the current game. And sometimes with a game this big, it's just, you know, that might not be quite enough. But yeah, I think we're all going to have to just get used to, like, hey, we want these super complicated, gigantic, super immersive, super realistic games. Yeah, you're going to have to bear with them.
Yeah, I think, hopefully, at least I would be happy that if this new season or this new paid update does really well, hopefully it will expand their development on Elite. At least that's my hope, because that's what I feel like Horizons did.
No, I think Horizons absolutely did that, and I think they're going to definitely need the new player base, because I mean, as we all know, that the update's not coming till I believe the fall of 2020, and that's a long time without a big update. So I think you're definitely going to have some players, even regular players, who are going to fall off in that time. And I'm sure you're going to get a little trickle in of new guys here and there, but you're not going to get any huge numbers like you did with, say, the December 11th update, the last big one. So yeah, I think we're all going to have to, or FDev is going to have to really deliver with this, because they're going to, need the new players, they're going to need to replenish their losses, and also I think it's going to be good because they need to bring their old players back, because, you know, a lot of old Elite players, if they see something really, really cool, they see something really neat, they're going to be like, hey, you know, let me fire this up again and start playing.
Yeah. I feel like another good idea would have, like, what Siege does, Rainbow Six Siege, is have, like, free weekends to play. Just to introduce some people to the game.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I think exactly, maybe a weekend where you don't have to buy the game to play it. Although I think we should all be appreciative, and this is something we should also keep in mind with bugs, kind of back to our previous statement, is that, you know, we're not paying a monthly subscription like you do with a lot of MMOs. And that's really, really cool, actually. I think a lot of us don't appreciate the fact that this game does two things that a lot of gamers complain about: no subscription and no pay to win. It's really nice that some guy can't just jump on here and be like, hey, I'll pay $20 and I get a vet, or I get a Condor or something. So that's really something I think that doesn't get appreciated enough with Elite. But keep in mind, that also means that Frontier's, you know, income resources is, other than the few new people they get, is basically paint jobs and the ship kits, which I'm sure they make some money from it, and probably obviously enough to support their staff, but I doubt they're getting rich off it either. So, you know, I think they've done a lot of work to sort of keep the game, you know, fair in that way, or more accessible as well.
Very true. I think microtransactions are the way to go for a game. It seems to be a popular way for EA's Battlefield's, Siege's way of doing stuff, and also Elite Dangerous with their paint jobs. I feel like there's more possibilities as each ship comes out, or hopefully new SRV or new SLF, whatever it is. I I feel like it's a fair marketing strategy, and it gives the player a choice of yes or no, and that's it. So it's not like you're forced to or you're gambling. You're getting what you paid for.
Well, I'm okay with microtransactions to a point, but I have to say I hope they keep it to, like I said, not pay to win. I don't want someone who just buys the game to be able to spend an extra $10 or $20 or whatever they might charge and be like, here's your first Conda or something like that. Because I just have never been a big fan of that model, but I'm absolutely okay with, you know what, more ship kits, more unique paint jobs. And who knows, they could, especially if they do this whole space legs and first person shooter stuff, more customizability for your character. I mean, obviously we can already pretty much design our faces and everything, but you know what I mean, more outfits, more paint jobs for your guns or something.
Yeah, more,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, more tires. I feel like, at least in my personal opinion, I don't have a problem buying ships. As a person, as you've told me yourself, you used to play World of Tanks, and you know how they have premium tanks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
have to say it's been a while, but yeah.
I feel like if they could give a well-balanced ships with obvious cons but obvious pros and make them balanced, I think I'd be okay with that personally. But that is just my 2 cents. But I would like to hear your opinion on it.
Like I said, I'm so torn because I feel like we're gonna.
I mean,
it depends. It depends. If my normal ships, meaning like a guy who plays the game without paying, can make a ship that still can handle those ships, meaning like, hey, if you build this ship properly and put in the time in the engineering, I can handle it. I'd be a little okay with it, or more okay with it. I have to say, I'm still not a huge fan of that whole model because I feel like then you just end up getting a lot of players who, I don't know, like they come in and they have these ships, but they're not skilled to use them, and I don't know, it just makes things more cluttered. But you know what? At the end of the day, I want this game to succeed, and if it really would help them financially, and actually even help the new players, because you know a new player might stick around if he didn't have to spend 20 hours or 20 hours, who might getting 100 hours, grinding to get the money in the mats they would need to, build a good ship. That would be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and you get more people to stick around. So.
Yeah, I feel like, at least in my opinion, I know Wargaming does have their problems with their marketing, and I am obviously aware of that. But I would like to see like ways you can bundle, say, a ship that you could buy, say. Buy a ship just completely the way it is, no weapons, no utilities, no nothing. Just flat out ship. Or you could buy a ship that same ship, just slightly more expensive with the things already on there. But obviously balanced, of course. But obviously we all have access to engineers unless we don't have horizons, which I feel like those ships should be horizon bound.
Yeah, I'd be more. Like, if you were just able to buy a stock version with a little cash, like, say, I don't want to grind the 100 hours it's going to take me, or even, like you said, a version where it's fully loaded, but not engineered, meaning just A-rated and has your stuff, and you can pay that. I would be a little more okay with that, because if you're a hardcore guy, you're going to have a fully engineered ship, and you're still going to beat that dude anyway. Yeah. And at least it's a way for that dude to go take on NPCs, or, like, let's say he's not into the open play, maybe he's just some dude who wants to play solo. Yeah, like that, something like that would be perfect, because then he could take on the NPCs, he could do his thing in solo. But if he wanted to, go take on PvPers, he would still have to put the time in, at least for the engineering. He might have to do the money grind. You have to do that. So actually, I think your idea right there, that sounds much better to me. Like, I could handle that. Yeah, I'm not. I could deal with that. And like I said, I'm actually all for FDev raking in a little more money, because I feel like if they get more money, then they're going to put more developers in. We're going to get more stuff, and more bug fixes, more updates, more lore, more everything, which is what I think all of us want as Elite players. We want that stuff,
Yeah. I mean, it's a market that seems to have worked for Wargaming. I know, as I said before, Wargaming obviously has their problems, and it's not a perfect system, but trying to find a perfect system that works anymore is basically nearly impossible.
Well, yeah, I think no matter what system you implement, you're going to always have somebody who's going to detract or complain. So I completely agree there. The whole, like, let's please everyone idea is just, no, you're not going to, and you're never going to. So quit that idea right now. What you need to do, or you should try to do, is just please the majority. You know, and that's really, I think, the best we can hope for is just, hey, please the majority, which I know probably upsets some of the PvPers and gankers out there, because I think one of the reasons those guys get shafted a lot is because, you know, at the end of the day, Dev tends to listen to their more solo PG, quote unquote, Care Bear groups, you know, who kind of stuff, just because they got the numbers.
Yeah,
So,
or
although,
yeah,
but I think all the griefers and gankers, at least the ones who are realistic, they understand at the end of the day, okay, that's the majority of their player base, that's the majority of their money. So they're still a company, they're still trying to make money. You know what I mean? So we all have to keep that in mind. As much as we are passionate and love the game, like, we have to keep in mind that, hey, this is a business. We also have to keep in mind that Elite's also only temporary. It's not going to be around in 50 years. Now, who knows, Elite 2, Dangerous 2 or 3, which I know before everyone says it, there was the 1984 version, the early 90s version. I believe technically this is Elite, or is it 5? I think it's 4. But yeah, I think we'll have an Elite 5 or 6. I think we will see that. So well, let's not get too quiet here.
yeah, I was just responding to in chat.
Okay.
People were asking why should this be a thing, and I was like, it doesn't really have to be a thing. It's just kind of my own opinion. I like to try to think of scenarios or just think of ways to help like the game. Apparently the game makes perfectly fine bank just selling cosmetics, which, hey, that's perfectly fine with me. I just like to be able to see more content and well balanced. I really don't see, I obviously can see pay to win, I obviously can, but is it really any way of not avoiding it? I mean, we already have the Cobra Mark IV that way. A lot of people say that's one example. I don't know.
I'm not saying it's unavoidable. I will say, I think our good friend Link here listening, pay to skill. Yes, that's it. I will pay money and I will automatically be better at this game. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. We have a listener here, Link1, who's got, I think, a really good one. Charge money for mat packs. You know, I think there's a lot of us out here who would love to not have to just sit there and grind antimony at an anaconda site for 20 hours, or, you know, an hour or whatever. I mean, not 20 hours, a little exaggeration, but yeah. So maybe, yeah, I could see a little bit pay to win, but like I said, I think unfortunately in this modern age, it's to a point unavoidable. Like, what I don't want though is, like, I jump in and I could spend $100 and have a fully engineered, fully in it, like, whatever Condor or something. I think, you know, just having an ability to maybe buy a ship for pay, like a stock version, or even like a fully outfitted version but not engineered, would be the way to go. Because even if you could say, do what he said, you know, pay for mat packs, you'd still have to unlock those engineers. You would still have to spend the time to get the engineers to use those mats that you paid for. So I think those all could be interesting ideas. I definitely want Frontier to have a way to make a little more money, and also a way to make it a little easier on the newer guys as far as getting to a level where, like, I know this happens to me in PvP or AX. Actually, well, I deal with more with AX. I'll say AX. Where some guy will come in and he'll be like, hey, I'm really interested in Thargoid fighting. I'm really interested in AX. But I'm like, oh, well, by the way, you've got to go unlock this engineer, this engineer, this engineer. Oh, and you've got to go 800 light years out to the Guardian sites, and you got to do all this. So in 2 weeks, once you've done all that, now you can come join me and have some fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a rough thing to say to a new player. So if there was just some way to make that a little easier, I think it would be a real benefit to the game. And if it could earn Elite a little bit of money so they can, you know, maybe invest a little more into the game, that would be really good too.
Yeah, I feel like Elite came a long way, at least as far as engineering, to make it a lot easier. Back in my day, this was a lot harder than it used to be.
Yes,
Basically
yes.
the roll of the dice, which, thank God, it's kind of no longer that way, but that kind of was half the fun in itself, too.
Well, yeah, because you could, of course, get I know they were super rare, but the god rolls, you know, where actually I believe a god roll, it would be even far superior to some of the G5 engineering. But I also feel like that's a little more fair balance way they've changed it. I'm glad they've changed it too, so, you know, everyone's G5 is the same G5, that kind of thing, or G4.
Yeah.
Or whatever rank it might be.
It definitely levels the playing field, and I think that's really good. It does worry me that there are some god roll weapons, but even then, I don't think they make much of a difference, to be honest.
And not to mention, so few have them, because I feel like a lot of the people who have the God roll stuff, I know there's a few out there who are really hardcore who are still around, but in general, most of those guys have fallen off. So I might meet a player who has a God roll stuff, you know, here, there, once in a while, but at least personally, maybe I'm wrong here, but at least personally, I haven't met a ton of them.
Yeah, I know on my Crate Mark II, I run a God roll power distributor. That has slightly extra recharge and capacity on it. That outclasses a standard one.
Oh wow, yeah. So that's pretty awesome. I, of course, as you know, I was a little later to the game, everybody, so I was not quite that far back. But yeah, that's really, really cool. You know what would be kind of intriguing, and I've always thought about this, is what if they were to do something like, say, Incorporate the 2, where you could either go straight down the G1 through 5, or you can take your chances and go for God. I've always thought that might be intriguing. Where, you know, obviously most of the time you're going to miss, but like maybe just add one little line above it where it just says random or something, you know, and then, you know, most of the time obviously you're going to get crap, but occasionally you might get the God roll. So
I like the idea if I could hit for G5, like hit for G5, but have like a 50-50 if the weapon's going to freaking explode or break.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to do that, I feel like you need to add a like, it'll be like 50% chance to explode, 50% chance to be amazing beyond belief or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're like, oh, do I want to risk this? Like, you know, because I've already put a lot of mats into it. That would be interesting to sort of to shake it up like that. But I think at the end of the day, you'd probably get a lot of complaints. So I don't think we're ever going to get anything like that. But it's an intriguing thought.
Yeah, I've seen that used in a lot of RPGs whenever you're enchanting weapons, and I just kind of got that idea.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, we're all kind of basically RPGing with our ships, right? You know, what are we doing? We're building our ships up, or engineering our ships up, and the same thing is kind of similar to your character in an RPG. So I don't think it's not really that far off, in my opinion, as a comparison anyway, or as even an idea, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Going back on exploration, do you think there's any recent locations that are probably worth going to?
Ooh. Is there any new locations that are worth going to? I mean, well, there's always the big ones that we all know about, Sagittarius, Nebulas, things like that. Not exactly. And this is kind of where I was going to just say, as far as exploration, and this kind of ties into, I think, maybe our last subject, Mysteries of Elite. It would be really great if they could take a location that not a lot of people go, say maybe the Void, or just some area of space that's not highly visited, and let's, you know, maybe get some mystery going. They did it once before, I think we all know, with the whole Drew Wagger and Formidine Rift mystery and Salome and all that stuff, which was, I think, really well received in general by the community, and it would be really great if we could get something like that again.
Yeah, I would love to see more lore. Anyone that's followed my channel, I love the Generation ships. They have a good story, a good lore, tension, and they offer something that you don't see a lot in the game. A hint at the old world to the new world.
Yeah, kind of a connection to the past, which I think you're right. I don't think there's a lot of that in the game. Kind of just way off in the future, and yeah, that stuff just happened a long time ago, whereas this kind of gives you a hint at the struggle of early human colonization and all this stuff, and apparently, based on the Generation ships logs I've read, was quite a struggle. Of course, I'm guessing the successful ones really, you know, kind of kept going, so you don't really have the broken down logs, so I guess it kind of makes sense that the ones we find would be the ones that had bad things happen. But yeah, I definitely think that would be really cool. But I also think it would be really cool if, you know, let's start doing a storyline with the Darkwheel and Raxxla. You know, they've finally been added to the Codex. You know, the Raxxla hunting and Darkwheel hunting has kind of gone off crazy. And for those of you who are not aware, I'm sure most are, you know, Darkwheel and Raxxla are the two biggest mysteries, with Darkwheel being like a secret faction in the game with a secret station that no one can find, and of course Raxxla being like this secret alien place that has magical stuff, or well, not magical, but super technologically advanced stuff that's maybe leads to another galaxy, or there's all sorts of rumors of what it could be. But the point is that to maybe a storyline that finally leads us there, and who knows, maybe kind of back to my previous comment, this whole Halsey Vision stuff. Even though I kind of connected it to the Guardians earlier, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it has to do with Raxxla, or maybe it has to do with Darkwheel. Who knows? We'll have to see. But I hope they kind of go that route, because I feel like the mystery really grabs not every player, of course, because a lot of players aren't interested in stuff like that, but it grabs a good amount of them. And I think are you not part of Independent Raxel Hunters, Sparka? Because I think you are. And shout out to IRH, by the way, and Scolio the most, and all the other great guys who do work there. It's one of the biggest Raxel hunting groups out there, and it's not even a traditional group. It's actually welcoming to everybody. So if you're ever looking for a great group to just share some info or some theories or wrap a little tinfoil on your head, go look up Independent Raxel Hunters, guys, because they're on Discord. There's hundreds of members. Like I said, the group's owned by Scully the most. Shout out to him for creating it. And yeah, fantastic group for just looking for mysteries and hunting mysteries and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually I am part of it. Facehugger, your friend, sent me a invite to him, and they love the messages spam. Holy crap.
Yes, those guys can go a little overboard sometimes, but in general, it's good stuff, man. And they don't ping usually too bad, so the pinging's not usually too much of an issue. And like I said, if you're just wanting to put on your tinfoil hat and go do some Raxla theories or some investigations or even Dark Wheel stuff, because it's not just Raxla. I mean, obviously that's their main focus, but it is other stuff as well. That I would say is one of the places to be. And unlike a lot of groups, I won't name any names here, but unlike a lot of groups, they're very, very, very welcoming, opening. There's no hierarchy system. There's no leader or initiation. It's just a bunch of pilots. I mean, there's Imperials there. There's Feds there. There's Independents, Alliance, PvPers, Care Bears, Griefers. Like literally the gauntlet of players and elite are all there. And I think that's what makes IRH kind of special. And I just have to say, I've been a longtime member of IRH, and I just really wanted to throw them that shout out because, guys, that's some of the coolest stuff Elite has to offer, in my opinion, are the mysteries. So I really hope that with efforts from groups like them and others, that, maybe we can find some interesting stuff for these mysteries, or if nothing else, maybe inspire Frontier to do a little more with them,
Very true. It would be cool to see. I know Canon has it on their website, but a Discord group for the generation ships. That's just kind of my love spot for lore in this game.
I'm not sure if IRH does that. I know, of course, obviously Canon does, and also shout out to Canon because they do amazing work as well, especially with their website where they share so much information with the community. I know I've personally taken used their stuff as well, and I think a lot of players have, not all players. Maybe not all, but a good majority. And yeah, so shout out to them as well. All the many groups who help solve mysteries of Elite.
Very true. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our first podcast, St. Michael. As I said, I do appreciate you having on my first podcast and on my live stream and on
absolutely.
My channel.
Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please. Sorry.
I know you are a big part of my recent videos, my AX videos, and some of my PvP videos, and I do appreciate that.
Definitely. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me on. I hope you have me again. And yeah, I hope this continues. I think this podcast could be really fun. And yeah, we'll have to talk about some new stuff next time. And maybe there'll be some even new information or something. But yeah, been great fun, and thanks for having me.
No problem. Okay, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. And until then, I'll catch you on the next one. As I am trespassing in the mail slots.
Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.